On this panel here, the panel deals with the notion of strengthening HBCU and MSIs capacity with industry partners. Fortunate to have several industry partners with us. We have four of them, so I will ask them to introduce themselves, starting with Ms. Sherilyn Hyson, and then we'll go to Ms. Belinda Kennedy, then we'll go to Mr. Roosevelt Conley, then we will go to Miranda Bolden in that order. So starting with Ms. Sherilyn Hyson, please briefly introduce yourself to the participants. Thank you.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to participate in the HBCU MSI Summit this afternoon. It's an awesome opportunity. I am IBM Consulting's NIH account leader, and I joined IBM last year at the beginning of the pandemic. So it's been quite an exciting time, but of course, dire times for most of the nation, but an opportunity for us to make improvements in healthcare. And I really look forward to having a conversation today to explore how IBM Consulting can partner with HBCUs and also MSIs to address these issues, whether it be COVID, technology, the life sciences, resellers. There are a myriad of opportunities. So I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Belinda. Belinda, I'm sorry, Kennedy, would you introduce yourself briefly, please?
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity to be part of this panel and this discussion today. I'm Belinda Scarborough Kennedy. I am the IBM Global University Programs Specialty Program Manager, and my team and I focus on historically Black colleges and universities, medical and legal on a global basis. And we are the team that has been fortunate enough to work with HBCUs last year on deploying the $100 million in-kind give from IBM. And we are also beginning the work based on our CEO, speaking with other CEOs and university leaders with President Biden around August 25th about some new initiatives on education and training, including creating 20 HBCU cybersecurity centers.
Thank you so much. Sir Roosevelt Conley, would you briefly introduce yourself, sir?
I am honored to be a part of this forum. I am the Director of Strategic Growth, SOL Engineering. And what we strive to do is continue to try to make a difference in the lives of our young people coming through the HBCU as well as our corporate partners. We have about 10 different locations wherein we are doing engineering application as well as cybersecurity and training. We continue to ask the community to get involved, and also we strive to become one of the best employers throughout America with our design and our infrastructure concepts. Again, all of this wouldn't be possible without the aid of Alabama A&M University.
Thank you so much, Mr. Conley. Ms. Miranda Bolden Frost, would you please introduce yourself briefly?
Thank you. Thank you. I too am honored to be a part of this panel and for the discussion. I'm a proud graduate of Alabama A&M University, and I am also president and CEO of HBCOR Corporation. We are a woman-owned small business defense contractor, started as a sophomore there at Alabama A&M University, and this October celebrated 19 years. Our goal and our mission is to continue to encourage students to excel in education, to foster internships in our core capability areas, which is systems engineering, software engineering, integrated logistics support, and now we've morphed into intelligence as well as cybersecurity. So we're proud to be a part of the discussion today. Thank you.
Appreciate that, panelists. Now, let me say this, that in the HBCU MSI environment, there is a dearth of knowledge and information regarding what we do, and that is circulating around a small cadre of individuals who are knowledgeable about what HBCUs and MSIs can offer in the areas where you all play in the sandbox that you play in. But we have this seminar so that we can begin to engage in a conversation regarding bringing all of that to a coalition that might build capacity for HBCUs and MSIs in a more fruitful way. So what the question then that I'm posing, that each one of you will provide some thoughts on, please keep your comments as brief as you can, because the session is being recorded. We will provide additional information to participants at a later date if you provide additional information to us. But the specific question then is, and I will pose it, and the person to answer this question, we will begin with Ms. Kennedy to answer the question, and then we go around. So the question then is about building capacity with industry partners. Ms. Kennedy, how would you and your organization assist HBCUs and MSIs in building this capacity that we're looking for, and making them fruitful industry partners in the area that you work in?
Well, thank you for that question. I am very fortunate to be a graduate of an HBCU, West Virginia State University. And upon graduating from West Virginia State University, I started with IBM 34 years ago. So when we talk about building capacity, it is critical in order for us to meet the global needs in areas like artificial intelligence and blockchain, cybersecurity, you've heard multiple times in this conversation, cloud computing, data science, which we see on the news every day as we manage COVID-19 on a global basis, Internet of Things, which is in the technologies that we are hearing about on the news as well because of semiconductor shortages. And then we also round it out with the emerging technology areas like quantum computing. And so the way that we've been building these relationships, and I highlight we, in my 34 years, I spent around the last 7 years working with education, and then specifically the last 4 years with my team and I working with our HBCUs. And the goal has been to help HBCUs have the talent and skill in those areas I previously listed in their faculty, who then teach the students. And this is how we address the skills gap that we see that's out there in an ongoing basis. We've been talking about the 1.8 million cybersecurity people. That was the number that was used 3 years ago. Now think about everything you've seen on the news. That number has only increased by country and every industry that's out there. And the way we do that is by these collaborations. So I'm very fortunate to be working with about half of the HBCUs now in skills and research partnership agreements. That's what we as IBM are doing. But we've also expanded those ecosystem relationships beyond the HBCUs. So there's a paper that I'll make available to everyone after the call that we announced a press release in May of this year with the United Negro College Fund, 100 Black Men of Americas, AMY, which is Advancing Minority Interest in Education, and the Association of Blacks in Education. And recently I started some additional work with the US Navy Academy. So it's these relationships that you build over years and you continue to grow and enhance and add to, that's critical for making these things happen. So we have 200 plus teachers trained in these areas who are then training 500 plus students. So that's the short answer, and I'll turn it over to someone else.
Thank you so much. So let's stay with IBM for a minute. Let's go to Ms. Sherilyn Hyson. Same question. Talk to us about building capacity.
Well, IBM Consulting is actually looking to partner with HBCUs when it comes to contracts now. The grants, of course, have always been an avenue for HBCUs and MSIs. However, contracts have been missing basically on the campuses. So we would like to partner with HBCUs and MSIs on federal contracts. And that's the reason why I'm here now. We actually have pending opportunities. As you know, IBM is an over 100-year-old organization. And we have actually changed our branding. We were IBM Global Business Services. We are now IBM Consulting. Our capabilities are cutting edge, as you just heard from Ms. Kennedy. We are now more concerned about the virtual enterprise, guys. Everything is cloud. We are not going back to the old normal. We are addressing the new workplace. And 9 times out of 10, it is going to continue to be a virtual enterprise. So cloud is extremely important. I would suggest that all of the HBCUs really hone in on what your strategy and your capabilities are. Because when you speak to me or any of my counterparts, we want to know how you fit into what IBM is doing, not vice versa. We want to meet you where you are and then go to the government as a team. So basically that's the approach that we're taking. And I also have a slide deck that's too long for the time that we have today, but it will be posted on the website. I'm available to have conference calls and also set group sessions with the HBCUs because the time is now. There are billions of dollars on the street and we must get our share.
Ms. Hyson, I think that these participants will like you already for opening that door for them and you're going to provide them with additional information. Thank you so much. So let's go to Miranda Bolden-Frost. I do know that she started out as a small business. So how did you build capacity? How can you help us, these HBCUs and MSIs? How do you help us to enhance our capability so we can build capacity?
Yes, and I echo everything that Ms. Hyson just discussed. Same thing, we're a defense contractor and there's plenty of opportunities out there. And so in building that capacity, we also are looking for opportunities to partner with the HBCUs and the minority institutions. And by doing that, we get an opportunity to develop the student workforce of tomorrow. And so we're able to provide those opportunities. The key is building the relationships in these type of collaboration groups and just being intentional about working together. And so that's kind of my approach, continuing to reach out to the HBCUs. My 3 daughters are also products of an HBCU, Spelman College, 2 of them, and Clark, Atlanta, 1, my husband, Alabama State, and me, Alabama A&M University. So I have a keen interest in supporting the HBCU schools as well as the student growth. And so again, contract opportunities, there's always a requirement in there for HBCUs. And so we just need to do more of that, reaching out and just making it intentional about developing those relationships.
Thank you so much, Miranda Bolden Frost. Mr. Conley, I know that you have been around this circle and you have done quite a bit because I've read your background and I know the kind of work that you've done. You build capacity around the communities and around the United States in different areas. So I'm going to pick on you because I want you to open that head of yours and pour out that knowledge and experience that you have. Provide them to these MSIs and these HBCUs. Tell us, how do we build capacity so that we can begin to make some progress in our environments?
I think strategically, everything that I've heard is on point. I think that what we have learned from the experiences is networking and relationships. The networking and relationships build a very strong portal for success. The other thing that I found that we have learned to do that we weren't doing very well is communicate. We have upgraded a lot of our curriculums to meet the demands, but the other thing that we had to get was buy-in from the administrations within a lot of the colleges and universities. Our students are outstanding in the HBCUs, provided that they are given the direction that they are to pursue their degrees in. I believe that our students can do anything if they are properly trained. If we can upgrade continuously the curriculums as well as train the faculty to be accessible to the student, The primes are looking to find a way to get to the untapped market. And again, what I heard from Ms. Bolden, the people from IBM, it's outstanding, the knowledge that they have grabbed and what they're looking for within the cloud and through these techniques. A lot of things now are changing. The landscape is changing to virtual reality, gaming. We have to know what the demands are within our boundaries. You take our home, which is Alabama A&M University. I was there in '63. We developed many strategic forums to try to get to some of the technical agencies. We failed. Now we're doing better because we listened. We have to be able to listen, and we have to be able to grab what we hear. And then we have to find a way to develop these workshops as well as these strategic forums to be inside. We have to get to the chamber. We have to get to our strategic leaders and make them invest in dollars and cents to upgrade our HBCUs and give them the tools to compete. We can compete if the budgets are there. We can compete if we brand what we do. I look at what has happened at Redstone. They branded UAH as an engineering school. They branded Oakwood in theology. Alabama A&M, when I came to Alabama A&M, it was an agriculture and mechanical school, and we knew what we did. Now we're changing that landscape. We're branded in research, analysis, technology, math modeling, business administration. We got some of the finest teachers and professors at the HBCUs in America. We got some of the finest students in America. And we have to make sure that we bridge that gap with mentoring. If we find that there's a gap, we must take and find a way to mentor and close that gap. I think our presidents and our leaders within the HBCUs, they're more thorough now, and they are attending these workshops and these clinics. But you have to bring that message back, and you have to support the teachers. So again, what I have heard from IBM, from Ms. Bolden, I work strategically with Miranda, and we work procurements, requirements, we work opportunities. But we have to go get trained ourselves. But we have to also thank God for the opportunity. If we do, and I say this all the time, my mother was valedictorian at Alabama A&M when she went to Alabama A&M, but she never talked about what she learned. She always talked about what we needed to do in order to meet the challenge. She gave me those 4 things, and I rest on those 4 things. We must be able to read, write, add, and subtract. But you got to be able to take those 4 things that she told me, and you got to put it on paper. And then you got to be able to understand what you just heard. I believe this. Those young ladies and those people that are in the workplace today, they are outstanding. I'm so very proud of our historical Black students and as well as our leaders. They have learned a lot. I'm learning from them every day. I learn from my children because I listen. And I learned from you, Dr. O'Rourke. I work very close with your wife, and she is outstanding in finding opportunities for us to grow. But we have to have people really and truly sharp in math and in physics, in quantum, in the cloud, in IT, and they got to be able to have that knowledge that they can translate back on paper. If you can't translate it back on paper, you're going to be graded, because we have to respond to the requirement and we have to have a solution. And that solution has to be economical. But we all have to make money in order to stay in business. So we must find that way to keep our students sharp. And we got to tell them, yes, you can be the best in your field. That's all I have to say. But I thank God for all of you people that are in the corporate America. I retired from Raytheon and I retired from several places. And I can tell you, when I went to school at Northeastern and also at Harvard and MIT, I looked around the room and I didn't see us. I look around the room and I see us. It makes a difference. And thank you, Dr. O'Rourke, because I do talk to you and we talk about things. But if we don't talk about things, we cannot do anything. We got to be able to communicate and do not be afraid to say, I know. You don't know, and you ask a question, you can get some help. So the first thing when you ask me, I'm gonna say, I don't know, will you please tell me? And that way we will go forward. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Conley. I knew you were gonna pull some things out of the hat and lay it on the table as it is. So thanks so much for your candor as always. It's not often that we find corporate partners and those who have been in the trenches and have been there, done that, that we assemble them to share their knowledge with HBCUs and MSIs and try to help us as we continue to build our intellectual and material capacity. So the issue then is picking back up on something that Mr. Conley said. He mentioned one word because I'm in the knowledge business. So when people throw some words out, I pick up words that deal with knowledge. So he talked about curriculum. That hit me right away. So I want to ask a question about curriculum. I hope that I'm not putting you all on this spot, but you here on this webinar. So if I put you on the spot, please help me answer the question. Just help these HBCUs and MSIs in answering the question about what types of curriculum would embolden us? What types would embolden us? And what type of practical approaches should we be focusing on at HBCUs and MSIs that will assist us in pulling our knowledge base together to be able to access the wealth of resources that are out there, that you know are out there and that we cannot get to right now? What kinds of curriculum do we need? And what strategies should we be using? Please help us with that. Anyone can pick that question up, but I would really love to hear from somebody from IBM.
I would love to answer that question because that is exactly what my team focuses on. In my title, I said, we are IBM Global University Programs. We've been in existence for decades working with accredited academic partners on exactly that question. And so I can tell you that 5 years ago, in sitting in some of the HBCU week meetings, a request came up very similar to what Dr. Conley just referenced. We need somebody to teach our teachers. These are skills our professors at HBCUs need around cybersecurity before they can teach students. We need professors at HBCUs with skills around artificial intelligence so they can teach the students. We need these sets of skills taught to our faculty. So when a student walks in and says, I understand cybersecurity better than you, we can say, so you've been able to use the industry tools to look at system logs and bring up reputable tools to see what threats are actively going on around the world today. And to, as Dr. Conley said, document what you saw, where you saw, and how you would address it. Our students know how to use apps typically, but they don't know the back-end functionality behind it. That's where our faculty curriculum is so important. And it's not just the theoretical piece. We teach that, but it also includes another item that was just brought up. You need hands-on experience if you're going to do cybersecurity. You need the ability to take a company's issue and leverage AI, artificial intelligence around it. That's what the students need hands-on experience in curriculum today. They need to be able to do these things, take a company problem based on what they listen to in a meeting and come up with ideas on how to use their knowledge and the technology experiences they have had to solve it. And when I mentioned we have trained over 500 HBCU faculty It's in the most high demand skill areas that are out there, not defined by IBM, defined by the World Economic Forum reports, defined by the US Department of Labor reports, and defined by the overwhelming amount of opportunities that are out there that continue to have CEOs say they cannot find a talent. When I hear that statement from our clients, I say, I can find a talent for you at our HBCUs. Here is my single point of contact that works with my team and our HBCUs every day. If there's any doubt about that, I encourage you to understand we have 2 faculty from 1 HBCU represented on this call that was trained in cybersecurity over the last 3 weeks. How do you take 2 faculty trained and cover a school? Those 2 faculty are authorized now to teach other faculty and students with certificates from IBM so that they can return to the classroom, use the curriculum that we developed and maintain. That's how it's kept current, as well as it's tied to labs where the students get the hands-on experience, and quizzes to test their knowledge, and certificates that they can then put on LinkedIn to show prospective employers this is the skill set that they have achieved, because the certificate itself drills down into the exact skills that are associated with that certificate. And we have over 300 students that have these sets of skills with these types of certificates. Why do we do this? Because this week, IBM has out on a lot of our social sites, 500 research internship opportunities that our students could be pursuing right now. IBM has open right now our PhD Fellowship Award program, which has a USA Fellowship Award amount of $95,000. So when we talk about the programs and how do we do these things across all of our HBCUs, instead of talking about getting rid of debt, how about not getting it in the first place? Let's get these programs in place so our students have these award nominations through their faculty and get the set of skills so they can pursue not only the 500 internship positions from IBM, but the 1.8 million positions out there around the globe in cybersecurity. This is how we make sure all 293,000 HBCU students that we have get the jobs and get the high paying jobs that we know, as Dr. Connolly said, they can do.
Ms. Kennedy, you know, you almost made me want to jump out of my chair because you're throwing these figures out here and you're throwing these dollar bills all over the place. And I see our participants are just, I know they're eating it up because we need these certificates. Here at Ababa A&M, we have a degree in cybersecurity that we just got approved. And when you talk about certificate, that's a great way of fast pacing the process of getting individuals certified and knowledgeable about those areas. And I hope that the HBCUs, MSIs that are listening will take IBM up on what you just presented. Those who did not attend the webinar, they just missed important information. So let me segue into Ms. let me go directly into your IBM partner in crime that is on the screen right now. I'm looking at Sherilyn Hyson. Give us some strategies, Sherilyn. You heard what Ms. Kennedy said. She's out of your sandbox. So is there anything she missed that you want to put out on the table so we can pick it up?
Here's a nugget for every HBCU and MSI. In order to leverage for your students, your faculty, and also your staff can also leverage what Mrs. Kennedy just shared with us. Because when you become a contractor with the federal government, the first thing they ask you, how many of your staff are certified? How many degrees? Degrees now are second, guys. They want to know the certifications because the technology is growing so fast, the degrees cannot keep up. So it's essential that you partner with IBM and other organizations that provide cutting edge training. Because on every contract, I'm a former Fed too, worked at the White House and the Senate. So I understand everything Dr. Connolly has said, everything everyone on this panel has said, because I've heard it from the White House to the outhouse for the last 20 years, but we just haven't been listening. but that's okay. God slowed everything down just so we could listen. So here we are. Get your certifications. I graduated 30 years ago. I'm working on cloud certifications because just to stay ahead of the game, that's just how fast things are changing. And also, if we're going to survive in the 21st century, guys, to have conversations with our children and our children's children, you have to know the technology. You see, my background is dark today. You want to know why my background is dark? Both of my children are now at HBCUs in college. They usually handle this for me. So I depended on them to know this technology better than I do and to understand the lighting and how the lighting works. I can no longer do that because see, all of us understand that, okay, well, yeah, the kids will always be around, but guess what? They keep up with the technology. Now we have to keep up with the technology, become reskilled, retrained in the technology, and feel good about it. And I know a lot of us, we don't necessarily want to spend 8 hours a week in classes, but IBM actually requires that we receive at least 40 hours minimum in training. And some of us actually get up to 100 or 200 hours, and we're called super learners. So I suggest the HBCUs do the same thing for their staff, especially the staff. I'm a product of Howard University and family members, Tuskegee, my children at Hampton University and Howard. Our staff need to be reskilled as well. Because remember, they're facing the students. So they're communicating with 21st century students and operating in a 20th century model. So, there's a disconnect there.
So my HBCU friends, we got friends at the table.
Oh, yeah.
So you can walk around and say, we don't have friends in the room. We got friends in the room,
Right.
and they have things that we need. So I think that they're listening, and you should expect to hear from them. And this information will be available on our website, and it is recorded, and we will have information on all the presenters in case any participant wants to reach them personally. Now, let me go to someone that who has been in the trenches, been there, done that, and now we have talked about curriculum issues. We have put out a lot of information out there. So, Ms. Miranda Bolden Frost, talk to the HBCU MSI folks about how did you get to where you are? Were you able to build capacity so quickly to get to where you are? I know you're not 70 or 80 years old, but you got there so quickly. How did you build that capacity so fast to get to where you are? Please help us.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. And I'm in my mid-40s right now. And again, my entire career has pretty much been spent in the defense industry. And so it's been an honor to serve. I would say, starting out as a student in Alabama A&M as a sophomore, it all actually really started with relationships. Being there, learning and understanding more about logistics, which is where I started. That was a passion for me. I excelled in that area. I was actually picked up on a couple of internships with Lockheed Martin as well as NASA Kennedy Space Center. I realized that path was not for me. And so I decided to incorporate HBCOR and just delve more into integrated logistics support. One of the alum there, Michael Hartwell, he was actually an executive at Redstone Arsenal. He invited me out, introduced him to my company, the capabilities that I would hope to bring to the workforce, and was able to contract with them. We actually partnered with a couple of universities there in the Huntsville area. They brought us on, we brought in good talent, and we were able to grow and develop from there. And as you all know, with building any team and growing any company, it takes relationships and partnerships that must endure. And so for the first 7 years, we built relationships as a subcontractor to many companies throughout the Huntsville area. We worked in support of those programs. And then, we grew that capability. And then in 2009, we actually won our very first prime contract with AMCOM. It was a $100 million effort in support of overseas operations. That included integrated logistics support, IT support, and just working the the efforts there to have bin Laden be killed or surrender. So we supported that. That war ended in 2012 or 2013. We won the recompete, and we continued to support for an additional 5 years for the drawdown. But throughout the whole entire process, it was all about relationships with employees, relationships with our universities, relationships with the community, and with other companies. We've also brought in interns along the way. We have a current intern with our company now through the state of Alabama HBCU program. We've actually had 2 or 3 interns to work in support of our efforts. With those students, we bring them in, we introduce them to our team, we have them to look across the board on what we do, and we actually try to invest in hands-on training and opportunity that allows them to actually put that experience and capabilities on paper. Because as someone mentioned on the panel just a few minutes ago, what the government is looking for now is hands-on experience, and they're looking for certifications. Because we have such a demand for IT support, cybersecurity support, data analytics, artificial intelligence, I would strongly recommend, if Alabama A&M is not doing so, to perhaps put in a certification program specifically for certifications, because as we know, things are changing so rapidly that is what is required now. And so that's kind of what we're offering as well to our employees. We have tools that allow us to do that, and they get that continual training when it comes to certifications, and that's made available, and it's required. You have to have that. And so people are taking advantage of that, but we still need to do more to make sure our people are prepared to go out here, because as this program evolves in cybersecurity, it's also going to become increasingly more competitive as well. And so I think it's our responsibility to make sure that our students can compete. But as far as the company goes, we continue to partner and do things like this, participate in forums, communicate, collaborate, and just continue to make the main focus building a better future through our students.
Thank you so much. I think that as I'm listening to all of you, I know that either you've been to an HBCU, you have family members who have been or they're there already. So I want to ask a very general question, and I would like everyone to be able to add something as an answer to this question. That I will start with Mr. Conley when I ask the question. After he's finished with it, someone else, anyone can pick up on it. The general question is this: as you yourself have been to HBCU, as you've had family members who have been there to HBCUs or MSI institutions, what are you hearing that we're doing wrong, that we should do right, so that we can move ahead in trying to build our capacity? What is it that you're hearing from folks who have been there, either from you? What have you seen that you say, I wonder why they're doing that? How come they don't do so and so? Because I think that we need this type of information so that we know how to set this automobile on the right course. Can you help us with that, Mr. Conley, starting with you? That's a general question for everyone, but I just want to start with him.
I heard what you said, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult to give you the candid answer. I think our culture we have to look at our culture. We also have to look at where we're trying to go and understand what is in vogue. We continually are not having a seat at the table due to the fact that we do not participate in the right forums where the information is being let. And I can utilize an example for you. You take HAZBAT or you take the chamber, where decisions are made in advance for the future, and they are doing a strategic method. We have to develop a strategic plan to understand where the environment is going. In Huntsville, and I have to utilize Huntsville as a targeted source, technology is raging in Huntsville. We're being invaded with new weapon systems, new training methods, and new teaching methods. But we don't have any Afro-Americans at those meetings to understand how we prepare our students to be of a value. It becomes a win-win if you're sitting at the table and you hear the forefathers making plans to move the environment from A to B. We do not have any representation that is spot on, that can bring that message back to the people to upgrade our teaching methods. I heard everything these young people have just said, and I'm so proud of every one of them. They are right on target. We just have to make sure that we do our due diligence about having the knowledge and the worthy to go to these meetings. When I go to the Civic Center, I see 2,000 people at the Civic Center to get the message where Huntsville is going, and we only see 20 people that look like you and I at that meeting out of 2,000. Who do they bring their message back to, and who listens to them? It's unreal how we miss the mark because we don't plan sufficiently. I'm not saying we don't know. We don't have the resources, or we are not investing the resources in the right place so that we can be on page with what's taking place. Miranda and I go to a lot of places. We see, we talk, and we listen. And everything that I have heard here today, I am so proud because they have had the experience. I've seen how she had to work. I've seen how these other young people are working hard to bring it to us. But if you don't get buy-in from the managing arms to teach or upgrade, I see the disconnect all of the time, even in our grade schools. They got STEM programs. We don't have the resources, nor do we have the income to take that transformation over into our homes. If our education stopped 20 years ago and your kids are going out here in the world to compete, if your education stopped 20 years ago from being advanced, you got to get a mentor to help your students go forward. Or we got to find training aids within our communities. And the biggest forum that I've seen that really expounds are our churches. We have to continue to find a way to spread the joy, spread the knowledge, and figure out what it is that is taking place. And I know what's taking place. A lack of communication, a lack of resources to teach and train our students, as well as the parent, that the most important thing going on is that child. I believe we can do anything if we have the resources and they're put in the right place. But we have to do one thing. We have to make sure our priorities are our students and our children. It can't be what you're going to wear tomorrow. It can't be whether or not you get your nails done or I get a haircut. It has to go into that child. We have to give them the best information so that they can compete. And we can learn quicker than any people on this earth.
Mr. Conley, let me just thank you so much. Let me say this. We have about 5 minutes. So let me quickly go around and say, based on what Mr. Conley just said on the previous on the question that I asked about, is there anything that you want to talk to these MSIs and the HBCUs about? Real quickly, in about 2 minutes, let's just go around.
I wanted to actually comment, piggyback off what Mr. Conley said. I really do believe the most important thing is showing up, because we all know that it really is a lot about relationships as well. I want to reiterate that with strong emphasis that we do go to a lot of events and we don't see the representation of our HBCU students or leadership. A lot of times when I'm out, sometimes I'll buy an extra table and invite the students, but we really need to get the buy-in of the leadership to make sure these students show up, because they might be able to foster relationships that we may not be able to foster, or just hear about the things that are happening and going on when it's happening. But the other students are showing up. And so I believe that we really miss a valuable opportunity when we don't show up at the things that are sponsored by the community, by those agencies, just showing up at the places where new information is being rolled out. So I would just encourage, if there's any advice, just encourage our students to show up, have the sponsorship leadership from someone within the school that fosters that community relationship, not just in Huntsville, but other places as well. But showing up will almost always get you a seat at the table somewhere.
Let me ask Mr. Henderson, are there any question, or we can take one question if it's one out there?
Actually, we have just a comment from a gentleman, Daryl Carter. He's speaking to Dr. Connolly. You and others did not fail. My father taught me to be at least twice as good as your peeps. We just need to adapt and adjust. How do we do that? And he's Stillman College, 77, math and physics. But he just wanted to make a comment to the panel.
All right, so on the basis of that comment, I think that he made the comment just to arouse our interest in making us understand that there's still folks that are still doing good things out there, but we just want increase in numbers. It is not an answer that we can provide right now, but if it needs to reach back to Mr. Conley, I think that he's always available to talk. I go over there, we sit down and talk about all kinds of things. So if you want to reach him, you feel free to reach him and he'll be able to give you some insights about other matters. I think that in summary, because we are getting to the end of this panel, I just want to say that I do thank the representatives from IBM, Ms. Kennedy, Ms. Hyson. I do thank you, Ms. Miranda Frost and Mr. Conley, for your participation. Thank you so much and have a great afternoon.